I'm a huge boxing fan. I love the sport. First fight I ever saw was a taped fight of Muhammad Ali fighting Cleveland Williams. I remember my father crying when Muhammad Ali had to fight George Foreman. I remember George Foreman knocking Joe Frazier up the backside of his head, knocking him down about 6, 7 different times before the fight was stopped. Howard Cosell, the late, great Howard.
This is a beautiful house, my man. How many square feet is this?
A little bit over 20,000 square feet. 3 or 4 levels.
Money Mayweather, seems appropriate that you would be living in Vegas.
My mentality is always about, working smarter, not harder. Right.
Floyd Mayweather. The name alone commands attention. In the world of boxing, it is synonymous with dominance, extravagance, and a relentless pursuit of wealth. For over 2 decades, Mayweather wasn't just a champion in the ring. He was the brand. He didn't just beat his opponents, he dismantled them, outclassed them, made them look like amateurs, and then laughed all the way to the bank while doing it. But behind the glittering jewelry, the custom-made suits, and the constant parade of cash on Instagram lies a story much darker. A story that doesn't just raise eyebrows, it raises alarms. And in recent months, that story exploded into the public eye thanks to an unlikely whistleblower. Not a former accountant, not an investor, not a crypto sleep, but one of the most recognizable voices in sports journalism, Stephen A. Smith. Now you might be thinking, Stephen A., the guy from First Take, the one who screams about the Knicks every week. Yes, that same Stephen A. But don't let the theatrics fool you. When Stephen A. goes off script and starts pulling receipts, it means the fire is real. And this time, the target of his fury is the so-called TBE, the best ever, Floyd Mayweather. Because according to Stephen A. and a growing list of insiders, Mayweather might not be as wealthy, as untouchable, or as transparent as he claims to be. In fact, the allegations suggest he may have constructed one of the most elaborate financial illusions in sports history, with over $402 million in question. To understand how this story unfolded, we have to rewind. Not to his early days in Michigan, or even his Olympic debut. We need to go back to the moment Floyd stopped being a boxer and became an empire. Around 2007, Mayweather realized something: he didn't need to fight for promoters. He could be the promoter. By forming Mayweather Promotions, he took full control of his career. Suddenly,
I know we're on television, Floyd, but I think it's necessary for me to say, damn.
Well, we are on ESPN. These are sports cars. It's a sports network. This car costs $3.2 million. This Bugatti right here costs $1.6 million. You ain't seen these toys.
I haven't seen these?
No.
What? Floyd, this is 7 cars, man. Silver, platinum.
Every ticket sale, every pay-per-view cut, every merchandise deal, it all flowed through him. He wasn't just fighting, he was building a kingdom. The fights became spectacles, high drama, celebrity appearances, multi-million-dollar guarantees, and most importantly, total domination. Nobody could touch him in the ring. But somewhere along the way, Floyd's obsession with control morphed into something more sinister. The first red flag started subtly. Reports of financial inconsistencies, strange business ventures, bizarre purchases. Mayweather wasn't investing in tech companies or media startups. He was opening strip clubs in Vegas, launching a promotional company that had more scandals than stars, and splurging millions on cars that never left his garage. The message was clear: he wasn't just rich, he was untouchably rich. So rich that the rules didn't apply. So rich that he could post a $10 million slip just to prove a point. But that arrogance, that invincible bravado, may have blinded him to the growing storm around his empire. Enter the world of crypto. Between 2018 and 2022, digital currency exploded into the mainstream. And for celebrities, it became the new gold rush. ICOs, NFTs, blockchain projects promising 1000% returns. It was the perfect playground for someone like Floyd, whose entire brand was built on hype and flash. Mayweather dove in headfirst, promoting one coin after another, hosting events, dropping NFT collections, and, always, claiming he was doing it for the fans. But here's the problem: most of the tokens he endorsed turned out to be junk. Coins like Ethereum Max, which he and Kim Kardashian were paid to promote, were later revealed to be part of a massive pump and dump scheme that left investors in ruins. The SEC fined both of them, not for endorsing the coin, but for failing to disclose they were paid to do so. Mayweather's silence spoke volumes. No apology, no accountability, just a shrug and another flex on social media. That's when Stephen A. Smith decided enough was enough. What began as a small comment on ESPN turned into a full-blown media takedown. Stephen A., fueled by real documents, insider tips, and years of watching Mayweather sidestep criticism, launched an on-air assault that caught the entire sports world off guard. He didn't just call Floyd irresponsible. He suggested that the entire Mayweather brand might be based on manipulation and smoke screens. According to Stephen A., over $400 million that Mayweather claimed to have made was either locked in failing crypto schemes, funneled into offshore accounts, or simply never existed in liquid form. And here's where it gets really wild. Because this isn't just about bad investments. It's about deliberate obfuscation, about creating a public image of wealth so strong that nobody dares question it. But the moment someone did, Stephen A. cracked the door open. The stories started pouring in. Investors claiming they were promised returns that never came. Business partners saying they were left holding the bag. Former employees who hadn't been paid in months. And perhaps most damning of all, a whistleblower from inside Mayweather's own financial circle, who claimed the entire operation was held together by illusion intimidation. According to that insider, Mayweather operated in cash, avoided traditional banks, and used shell companies in the Caribbean to shield massive amounts of income from scrutiny. Offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands, Belize, and even Dubai were allegedly used to store funds, move profits, and conceal liabilities. The source claimed that more than $180 million of Mayweather's earnings were not real profits, but rather speculative investments marked up on paper to make him appear richer than he actually was. In essence, a house of cards built on perception, not reality. And it wasn't just crypto. Real estate deals in Beverly Hills and Miami had gone sour. Commercial properties tied to Mayweather promotions were foreclosed or defaulted. A handful of fighters signed to his stable claimed they hadn't been paid their contractual minimums. And yet, through it all, Floyd kept smiling, kept posting, kept claiming billionaire stats. But if you looked closely, the cracks were forming. Then came the IRS quietly. Over the year, they had been tracking Floyd's filings. In 2023, documents were leaked showing he still owed over $22 million in back taxes, despite making over $600 million from the Pacquiao and McGregor fights combined. Tax extensions had been requested, assets had been shielded, and when payments were due, Floyd claimed he was asset rich, but cash poor. Now that phrase, cash poor, might seem odd for a man who routinely posts stacks of $100 bills taller than some people, but it's a crucial phrase in understanding what this scandal is really about. Because it's not about whether Floyd Mayweather made money. He absolutely did. It's about whether he kept it, whether he spent it responsibly, whether he used it to enrich others, or to build a personal brand so inflated it could crash the moment someone told the truth. And Stephen A. Smith didn't just tell the truth. He blasted it from every camera, microphone, and social media channel he had. He warned fans, investors, and young athletes to look past the chains, past the jet, past the smiles, to pay attention to what was really happening. And the more he talked, the more people started asking questions. If Floyd's empire was built on untraceable money, failed crypto deals, and legal loopholes, then what happens when those loopholes close? What happens when the IRS wants their money? When the SEC wants answers? When the fans, the very people who made Floyd Mayweather rich, start demanding accountability? Because in the end, this isn't just a story about boxing. It's a story about image, about how far someone can go to preserve a persona, about the cost of invincibility. Mayweather wasn't just trying to win fights. He was trying to convince the world he was untouchable, that money would never run out, that he was the money. But if the allegations are true, if over $402 million of his net worth was smoke and mirrors, then the most devastating knockout of Floyd Mayweather's career didn't come from a rival in the ring. It came from a sports analyst holding a microphone and a mirror for a man who built his entire legacy on the phrase hard work and dedication. The revelation that Floyd Mayweather may have been crafting a financial fantasy hits like a gut punch. The very notion that his fortune, his most flaunted trophy, could be anything less than solid gold enough to shake even the most devoted fans. But for those on the inside, the ones who've worked behind the scenes, none of this came as a surprise. In fact, for years, whispers floated through private circles in Las Vegas and Miami. Whispers of unpaid debts, quiet lawsuits, and NDAs handed out like candy to those who got too close to the truth. And while the public still saw the private jets, the designer shopping sprees, and the high-stakes gambling wins, behind closed doors, things were starting to fall apart. Business deals that once felt bulletproof were now delayed or restructured. Business partners were starting to speak up, carefully and always off the record. Some even claimed that working with Mayweather wasn't about real business at all. It was about staying close to the flame. They described him as more of a myth than a mogul. One executive, who asked to remain anonymous, put it bluntly: weren't investing in a company, you were investing in Floyd. And Floyd was the product. But that product, as polished as it was, had some dangerous flaws. By mid-2024, financial analysts began taking a closer look at Mayweather's portfolio. What they found was deeply troubling. Reports began circulating that many of the businesses he endorsed either no longer existed or were operating at a loss. His strip club venture, girl collection, had faced multiple lawsuits, employee complaints, and operational shutdowns. His NFT projects had tanked, and several crypto coins tied to his image were now under federal scrutiny for possible fraud. It all began to feel less like a business empire and more like a crumbling illusion held together by fame, bravado, and the fear of looking broke. Because in Floyd's world, the appearance of wealth was everything. The money team, the watches, the cars, the betting slips, the perception that he could drop $1 million in one night and wake up richer the next morning. But what if that was just a script? What if, instead of being a financial genius, he was a master of misdirection, just like in The Ring? That's the theory Stephen A. Smith laid bare, not once, not twice, but repeatedly in a series of passionate, unapologetic rants that aired across SPN, YouTube, and podcasts. He wasn't just throwing shade, he was throwing fire. Stephen A. accused Floyd of misleading the public, of exploiting fans with fake investments, and of creating a financial house of cards that was now beginning to collapse. But his most damning claim, that Floyd Mayweather, for all his victories in the ring, had finally been defeated by greed. The reaction was immediate and electric. Social media exploded. Clips of Stephen A. calling out Mayweather racked up millions of views. Hashtags like Mayweather exposed and a Floyd scam started trending. People began digging. Every flashy Instagram post from the past 5 years was re-examined. Was that stack of cash real? Was that watch rented? Did he really own that skyscraper in Dubai? Or just take a photo in front of it?
My business, worried about what I'm doing, what Floyd is doing, what Floyd ain't doing, what I do got, what I don't got. Just know, I'm gonna stay in my lane. I ain't gonna nobody, and I don't want nobody with me. If I go on vacation, my fault. When I go on vacation for 30 days, I take 30 watches with me.
And just when it seemed like the situation couldn't escalate any further, it did. A bombshell report was leaked from a former Mayweather promotions insider. The report, over 80 pages long, included financial discrepancies, off-the-record interviews, and copies of non-disclosure agreements signed by employees who had been silenced after raising red flags. One of the most shocking claims, that Mayweather's team had actively created shell companies to route money through foreign banks, intentionally bypassing US tax obligations. Suddenly, this wasn't just about public image anymore. It wasn't about Stephen A.'s opinion. It was about potential federal crimes, tax evasion, securities fraud, wire fraud, all the buzzwords that start with whispers and end with handcuffs. The SEC launched an inquiry. The IRS reopened old files. Investigative journalists began knocking on doors in Vegas, in the Bahamas, in Panama. And while the world watched this slow-motion train wreck unfold, Floyd Mayweather was uncharacteristically silent. No Instagram videos, no press statements, no interviews. For a man who normally couldn't resist a spotlight, the silence was deafening. Rumors spread. Was he lawyering up? Was he hiding assets? Was he negotiating behind the scenes? Then, in the middle of a quiet Friday afternoon, without any fanfare, Floyd finally spoke. Not through a live press conference, but through a grainy Instagram livestream. Sitting in one of his million-dollar homes, shirtless, surrounded by luxury furniture, and a suspiciously large stack of poker chips, Floyd stared into the camera with that signature smirk. "They always try to bring a king down," he said. "Stephen A. can talk all he wants. The media can say what they want. I'm still rich, still undefeated, still TBE." But it didn't feel like confidence, it felt like deflection. And the intern noticed. Comments were filled with doubt. Memes popped up overnight. Floyd's empire, once unshakable, was now being openly mocked. And that's when things turned from scandal to crisis. Because it wasn't just Floyd's money at risk. It was his legacy. The thing he fought for. The brand he built. The name he had carved into the history books. And if it turned out that his wealth was fabricated, if the $402 million in question was never really his to begin with, then what did any of it mean? What was real? The fights, the lifestyle. The reality is, Floyd Mayweather didn't just sell boxing matches, he sold the dream of invincibility, of freedom, of beating the system and winning every time. But now he faces a battle he can't just dodge or outscore. He can't throw money at this one. He can't just disappear into a private jet and wait for the storm to pass. This is a war on multiple fronts. Legal, financial, reputational, and every move he makes is under the microscope. Even his closest allies have started to go silent. Partners have paused projects. Fighters under his promotion are quietly renegotiating contracts or jumping ship.
Trips, sit by myself.
Get ticked off?
Focus? Absolutely not. You keep asking me, am I upset about what people say? I don't live for no one else. I'm happy with myself. I'm happy with my own accomplishments if no one else is happy. Because it's all about self-preservation.
Sponsors are reevaluating relationships. The empire is bleeding. And Floyd, he's still playing the same game. Posting photos, flexing wealth and pretending that nothing's changed. But everything has. Stephen A. Smith, for his part, hasn't let up. In a fiery follow-up, he made it clear that this isn't personal, it's principle. This ain't about tearing a man down, he said. It's about telling the truth. It's about showing these young athletes what happens when you chase the image instead of the substance. He called Floyd a cautionary tale, a warning, and he challenged him, live on air, to show his books. If you got it like that, prove it. Be transparent. Let the people see what's real. But Floyd didn't take the bait. He never does. For him, transparency isn't the brand. Mystery is. Flash is. Power is. And that's what makes this entire scandal so tragic. Because at the heart of it is a man who spent his life crafting an image so big, so perfect, so bulletproof, that he forgot to protect the truth underneath. As the investigations continue, one thing is certain: the story isn't over. Not by a long shot. There are still court filings coming, still whistleblowers talking, still receipts being pulled from dark corners of the internet. And whether or not Floyd ends up in legal trouble, whether or not he loses a dime, his reputation has already taken the biggest hit of his life. Because the question isn't just, where did the money go? It's, was the money ever really there? And that, right there, is the most painful punch of all. So now here we are, at the end of a story that's almost too surreal to be true. Floyd Mayweather, the man who built an empire off of the mantra, hard work, dedication, is staring down something even he can't outbox the truth. A truth brought to light not by a rival fighter, not by the media's usual suspects, but by one of the most passionate, outspoken figures in sports commentary, Stephen A. Smith. The scariest part, this might just be the beginning. Investigations are still underway. More insiders are stepping forward, and Stephen A. Smith, he's not backing down anytime soon. If anything, he's just getting warmed up. So whether you're a die-hard Floyd fan, a crypto-skeptic, or someone who's just now realizing that not everything that glitters is gold, this story is a reminder of one brutal facting: reality always catches up. No matter how fast you run, how high you rise, or how loud you shout. And as for what comes next, that's not up to Stephen A. Smith, or the feds, or the media. That's up to Floyd. Will he come clean? Will he double down? Or will his empire vanish just as quickly as it was built? One Instagram post, one lawsuit, one lie at a time. Time will tell. But one thing's for sure, the money team may never look the same again. If you found this video eye-opening, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives, and drop a comment below. What do you think? Is Mayweather still the king, or is the empire collapsing before our eyes? Until next time, stay sharp, stay skeptical, and remember,